Hi everyone, I'm Tim Kitzrow. This is not NBA Jam. This is a paid-for introduction for Big Rye and the Fat Guy. Whoa, boom shakalaka.
What's up, YouTube? It's the NFL Picks Against the Spread for Week 6.
No, cut that out, you
What's up, YouTube? It's the NFL Picks Against the Spread for Week 6 of the 22-23 NFL season. Fat Guy, we are 45-33-2, good for 57% on the season. Washington Commanders at the Chicago Bears, Thursday Night Football. Bears -1, 71% of early bettors are on the Bears. Fat Guy, who you got?
What are you doing? But that being said, we're going to take Chicago. We're going to lay the 1 point. I'm kind of curious of this game. Doesn't it seem like a Ron Rivera type? I feel like there's smoke and fire, and the Matt Rule firing might have escalated things. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I'm a little worried for the Commanders with control at the helm. That being said, I think laying 1 point with Chicago here is going to be the way to go. The early bettors are in Chicago, and I could see this line moving to -2.5 because it's pretty elastic. Like 1 to 2.5, it shifts pretty easy, and that is going to be a point that will be brought up on the next game. So we're going to be taking Chicago. We're going to lay the 1 point contest pick.
And this is obvious, but Washington, the 30th bet team, Chicago, the 22nd most bet team. So not exactly a barn burner here for Thursday night.
No, there isn't.
On to the Sunday games. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are -2.5. I believe that line has actually moved up from 1. 57% of early bettors are on the Colts. Fat Guy, who you got?
We're going to be taking the Jags. We're going to take the 2.5 points. Something interesting to note, though, this line is a juiceless contest, right? The money line opened at Pinnacle, Indy -124. The money line at Pinnacle right now is -124, yet the line shift from Indy -1 to Indy -2.5. And that's because the devil's in the details, they like to say. I never liked that analogy. I don't know, but I just used it, so we're going to have to go with it. -1, -117 for Indy is the opening. And then currently it's -2.5 plus 103. It almost feels like you're trying to attain like a middle. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It just feels like some sort of risk mitigation tactic, or maybe it's a way to balance, an easier way to balance, something like that. I honestly can't say. I've never worked on that side of the counter, but that, like, these, you never saw this type of stuff 10 years ago, but nowadays it's kind of commonplace. So, like, why do they decide that they're going to, and they abruptly did it because it got up to -1, -127. That was when the Indy went to -135, and that was this morning. I guess somebody dumped on Indy, and it went to -2.5, and then I guess it stabilized. Anyways, very interesting stuff for me. I like the line movement stuff more than picking, but it's juiceless contest. Let's take Jacksonville.
Interesting to note here that Jacksonville, as far as percentages go, are the second most bet team money-wise, according to Action Network. Yeah. 29th
sure.
For total number of bets, but the people that are betting this game are putting money, not this game, but the last 5 games for Jacksonville. Yes. The money has been on Jacksonville as far as spread bets go. Fat Guy, on to the next one, which is the New York Jets traveling to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers, who are 7.5-point favorites at home. 41% of early bettors are on the Packers. Fat Guy, who you got?
We're going to go with the Jets. I mean, how could you pass up the hook? This is I could see this. I could see closing line value too on this, on closing somewhere around 7 or 6.5 with very high juice. I think that would be about right. So I think this hook is probably the way to go. It's juiced up a little bit at Pinnacle, not a -112, but that's not like the end of the world that much. That being said, too, I stopped regarding Action Network so much. It's a lot of fishiness has gone down the last year or so, actually a couple of years. But that is interesting to note that very few people are betting on Jacksonville. A lot of money is being bet on Jacksonville, allegedly. That would indicate sharp action because low volume, high output. I mean, most of you know, everyone's betting on average, $100 on a game. So if there's lots of money bet on a team, it's generally sharp action. I can't imagine there's too many whales from Duval. but I've seen weirder things in Florida. Anyways, back to the Jets Packers. I think there might be some rollover sentiment too. Jets getting a crucial win, and I think 2-0 with Zach Wilson here, and the Jets keeping it respectable, eh? Are the Jets 3-2? Holy smokes! Sorry, week 5. Can you remember the Jets having a winning record? Good for them. And Green Bay, are we going to call the London games prime time? I don't think so, but losing to the Giants is a little bit of a shocker. So I could see this number actually favoring the Jets in a movement fashion before close and going down to 7. So with the hook and medium juice, since it's a contest pick Jets plus 7.5.
Percentage of bets, percentage of money. The Jets are last according to the percentages. On to the next game. Baltimore at the New York Giants. Giants 4.5-point dogs at home. 41% of early bettors are on the Giants. Fat Guy, this line was at 5.5, maybe 6 at some places. It's come down to 4.5. Who you got?
6 would have been a great number to attain on the Giants, but at 4.5, it opened at 4.5 at Pinnacle. I feel like this line is probably right, to be honest. And this is one of those ones where like a winning record might make amateur bettors bet the dog, so like that is possible. And maybe that brings this down, but I think it's going to stay at 4.5, and that's probably right. Even though 4.5 is like a malleable number, right? Because if it goes to 5 or 5.5, it's not really a big deal. When it touches on even 4, when it goes to 3, that's a massive move. If it goes to 6, that's a massive move. So there's elasticity in between there, but I still think 4.5 is about right. But that being said, it is juiced up. This is a juiceless contest. We're going to take the Baltimore Ravens, and I do think this line is about right.
Baltimore first for number of bets, or percentage of bets, I should say, and percentage of money. They're 10th in number of bets. On to the next game.
Square
Cincinnati
team.
Bengals at the New Orleans Saints. Saints plus 1.5 points at home. 10% of early bettors are on the Saints. Fat Guy, with 90% of bettors on the Bengals. Who you got?
90% of early bettors are on the Bengals, and I can understand why. I think 1.5 is probably a good line here. Bengals, they're not getting the results. This is one of those things that I always find strange, in that you're going to find it like the gap between performances and the performances and their effect on the game starting to wane as we get down here. I know it's only week 5. It's going into week 6. Yeah, week 5 just ended. What am I talking about? The Chiefs just ended. So I know it's only week 6, but going forward, each like bad performance isn't going to like sewer you the week after. I know I'm using the term economics term elastic and inelastic a lot, but the performances are more inelastic. But I really think this Bengals team has just been mired by bad results, whereas they got good runouts. Like, to be honest, they weren't the second best team in the NFL. They went to the Super Bowl. Like, that's the thing. That's why we play the game, because anything can happen. That being said, I do think that these below average results for the Bengals is giving them a little bit of a good price, because I think this should be juiced up 2.5. I don't think it'll close at 3. That's too sharp, but I think it should be a juiced up 2.5. That's not the biggest edge in the world, but this is a juiceless contest, and we will take the Cincinnati Bengals.
Next up, Fat Guy, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to the struggling Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 7.5-point dogs at home. 15% of early bettors are on the Steelers. Is this line enough to jump on the Steelers?
I think so. I know I hate this number. Like, because think about what you would bet if this number was -6.5. Just because, like, all the key numbers are gone. And then also you got burned, too, by Atlanta. I did, at least. Pretty big. Very big, actually. For them covering plus 8.5. That's the number I got, which is a great number. It closed at 10.5. Anyways. Like, getting burned by Tampa could, hell hath a Tom Brady scorn, or a woman scored. Isn't he getting divorced? That being said, I like Tampa Bay. I like -7.5. I think that because of how bad the Steelers did, you are going to have an elastic reaction. And even though Tampa Bay shouldn't really be lending itself to too many points, I think this is going to close at Tampa Bay -9.5. I think closing value can be had, and I like Tampa Bay.
On to the next game, which is going to be the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, who are 5-point dogs at home. 26% of early bettors on the Falcons. Fat Guy, who you got?
I am going to side with the early bettors, and I'm going to be taking the San Francisco 49ers. Laying 5 here. I think even though Atlanta doesn't have the record, they're competing. Let's be real here. And I think they're 5-0 cover. I think that they are. Cleveland, yes. Last week against the Bucks, yes. Backdoor cover against the Rams, yes. They beat Seattle. There you go. Sorry, Big Rye. Just had to go through the Rolodex there. Pretty good. And perhaps we're getting the benefit of the doubt. This does feel like a 6.5 game. I don't know if you're going to be able to get closing line value, though. That's the only issue I have with betting this in real life. So for the contest, most assuredly, I'm going to be taking the San Francisco 49ers. 5's a weird number. Like, I don't mind laying 5.5. And this is the other one, too. Like, the charts between money line and point spread are kind of outdated. Like, when you take into consideration, like how teams score now, not how they score necessarily, but like
how they're coached really is what it comes down to.
Yeah,
like teams
and
are more aggressive. Some are less aggressive than they should be.
Yes.
Some are more aggressive than they should be. So it's not your typical. Not every game's going to be 23-20. You're going to have games where
it's not streamlined too. Like the games aren't close. Like some teams are, when you distribute them, they're just more likely to blow out or lose. Like I say every week about the Buffalo Bills, right? So I don't know. Like this 5 number seems weird. I think it should be 6.5. So contest pick San Francisco 49ers. And I almost kind of just like them on a money line basis, to be honest.
Next up, Fat Guy, we have the New England Patriots traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns, who are 3-point favorites at home. 46% of early bettors are on the Browns. Fat Guy, I've seen this oscillate between 2.5 and 3, so I'm guessing you like the Pats at 3.
Yeah, that's a good number. I think it's going to close at -2.5. And that still seems a little rich for the Browns. Like this team is pretty close to being 5-0. It's really annoying. It's really, really annoying. As someone who is medium like the Browns to very much like the Browns for many years. That being said, you bet the number, not the team. And this number favors the Patriots. I will be taking the Patriots. +3, I think, is a good number, especially if you can get low juice, which would be a dubious task at the moment of filming. I think there's value on the Pats and closing line value. If you're able to get reasonable juice Pats, let's say -110 or better, like Pats +3, -108, I think is a really good price. So let's take the Pats +3 in the contest.
Next up, Minnesota Vikings at the Miami Dolphins. There isn't like a solid line from one of the really good books. We've seen 2.5, 3, 3.5. So we've taken 2.5 here for the Dolphins as dogs. 57% of early bettors are on the Dolphins. Fat Guy, who you got?
Definitely, when we say 2.5, we're going to take the the Minnesota Vikings in juiceless contest. That being said, it's offered at -125, which is very high juice at a sportsbook that is available to me, and it's local in the area. It's the government regulated one, which does allow holes in a lot of whatever jurisdiction you're in. A legal sportsbook is usually terrible, like 6% over round, but there are mistakes in there. You just really have to hunt for them. I think this could be a mistake. Like, think about it this way too, because they haven't. I think as of now, Skylar Thompson is the most likely quarterback to play, and I think if that's the case, the 2.5 line is like absurdly good. And if not, like, say you have to lay 2.5 high juice against Bridgewater, or even Tua, this isn't like the end of the world. So, like, I think you have so much upside on betting on the Vikings now. Like, because the worst thing that could happen is you lose like a few percentage points of equity, like maybe 4%. It might be a -4% bet. I would say at the very highest if Tua plays, and even then, what Tua are you going to get? It's a no practice Tua, perhaps, right? Like, I don't think any of those guys are going to get cleared anytime soon. So I don't even think it's possible. I think if Tua plays or Bridgewater plays, you're going to lose maybe 2% of value paying that extra juice at minus 125 is what they're offering right now. Whereas like if Skylar Thompson plays, I think you're going to gain like 8% expected value, maybe 10, which by the way, I know those sound like low numbers and people are like, oh, we just care who's going to win. That's just not, it's just not in reality. Like there's a probability to everything. And there's a probability of getting a car accident when you drive to work. There's a probability of literally everything. And sports betting is weighing those probabilities and just playing volume and trying to get good numbers, and good numbers matter. Like even Vikings money line, that might be the best way of going, because the one thing that I've noticed on Twitter, I'm sorry I'm going long here, Big Rye, but it is important to talk about, is people go, oh yeah, you got an extra 2 points. That's only going to matter 3 times a year. Well, yeah, it does. It is going to matter 3 times a year, but and that could be, you know, a 3 to 6 unit change for your entire year. I mean, you know, it's not the way to go. You want to use ROI more often than not, but just for simplicity's sake, that could be up to a 9 unit play, because usually if you're getting the best of it, you're going to bet more. So 9 units is massive for an entire season. But if you feel that way, then just use money lines. If you have to lay bigger favorites, so be it, because then you can realize your equity every game. One of the sports books that puts out the lines the earliest, when there's a discrepancy about who's going to play quarterback, they don't let you bet money lines. And I always found it's interesting. And like I said, I touched on it earlier before, I've never worked on that side of the counter. So I always wonder if that's to stop someone like myself or whoever of trying to attain guaranteed value rather than an extra couple points that may or may not even matter. So I guess for risk's sake, that may be the case. But again, I'm speculating on how the books operate in those unique circumstances. Long story short, too long, don't read. Minnesota minus 2.5 high juice, and most assuredly in the contest.
Fat guy. On to the next game, which is going to be the Carolina Panthers traveling to LA to take on the Rams, who are 10-point favorites at home. 28% of early bettors are on the Rams. This line, when I saw it open at 8.5, it's pumped up to 10s ever since the firing of Matt Rule.
Well, and also too, PJ Walker is probably going to be playing quarterback as well. That's Baker Mayfield's out. I'm not sure the status of Sam Darnold, but does that even matter? You know what I mean? Like, and also too, somehow those guys are a downgrade from Baker Mayfield. I always find that strange though, when we talk about distribution of probabilities. Like with Baker Mayfield, it's very hard to get a very like strong performance. Like the ceiling is really low. The basement is probably much higher than PJ Walker. Same with Sam Darnold. Like getting like an amazing performance. I think I can only remember I think it was Cleveland against the Cowboys. And I'm not going to give Baker Mayfield credit for the for an amazing performance against Pittsburgh in the playoffs. The lone playoff game they've won the last since 1993, 94, something like that. The first snap of the game was a touchdown for the Browns. That being said, those guys don't give you high ceiling performances. PJ Walker, a undefeated XFL player, he's one of those like running gun type quarterbacks. I think offers you a much higher ceiling compared to those guys. If you're bad, I would rather play someone like that, especially when it's not like you're going to groom Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold to be the quarterback of the future. I just don't think that's even on the table, really. So all of that being said, I actually think this is a good number for LA Rams. And I know they've had their struggles. And Carolina defense is no joke. I hate to handicap, but I do think 10 points is going to be a reasonable amount of points to lay in it. I think it could close at 12. I think that's what I'm going to go with in my head. There's no scientific basis for that number 12. It's just my opinion. But also too, with an interim coach that does have a chance at getting the job. I mean, we've seen him before with Arizona, his lone head coaching season. Steve Wilkes with Arizona. It was very milquetoast and very boring with Sam Rosen, but I don't know. If I were him, I would play PJ Walker regardless of whether Sam Darnold was coming back, and I would go for the gusto and try and win the game. And if that were the case, if I knew that it was a strategy ahead of time, that would make me even more like the Rams minus 10, but it would also make me like Carolina money line. So for the contest, in a juiceless contest, it'll take the Los Angeles Rams -10.
Back in 2020 on October 25th,
Jets?
Baker Mayfield won the AFC Offensive Player of the Week playing against the Bengals, where he was 22 for 28 with 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. So,
sorry, wait. Can you give me the date one more time?
October 25th, 2020. So almost 2 years exactly.
2 years ago. So he had one in a 4-year career.
He had another one, but who cares? We're getting way too far into that. On to the next game, fat guy. The Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks +2.5 at home. 49% of early bettors on the Seahawks. Fat guy, who you got?
Well, this is we're going to be taking the Arizona Cardinals here. And I kind of want to watch this because this is like comical defense from Seattle. It's been pretty bad. Let's be honest here. I didn't watch the game against New Orleans, but it felt like everyone scored on every drive. Kudos to Geno Smith. I like something about hanging around the league and those guys actually performing that, because I didn't like him, but I didn't like him on draft position. It wasn't his fault the Jets drafted him so high, and he probably wasn't worth that pick, but good for him. That being said, this is a contest pick. We're going to be taking the Arizona Cardinals, and short and sweet. I'd like to watch that game.
According to Pro Football Reference, Seattle Seahawks -84 points on expected points contributed by all defense. And that just sounds very bad. On to the next one, fat guy. Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs +2 at home. 52% of early bettors are on the Chiefs, fat guy. I can't remember the last time the Chiefs were underdogs at home.
Yeah, I can't either. I think they were against the Bills on one other occasion. That being said, this is going to be this is the one game, and I should love it. Kind of like that playoff game. I might have been the only guy that didn't like that game. I didn't find it entertaining, only because there's no suspension of disbelief. They scored on every drive. It was almost boring. Wait, you just bomb it downfield. Felt like a Madden game. You know what I mean? It wasn't gritty enough for me. And also, too, another thing I don't like about these things, I'm such a hater, is this is going to be the talking point of the entire, this is going to just plaster the airwaves about weird. They're going to pick out the writers are going to pick out some nuance for the guy in the chair to talk about, some player on defense that's going to make all the difference or what have you. That's just a load of nonsense. The market does a much better job as a predictor than any of those pundits do. And the market for this has got to be the most solid here. It'd be really hard to be indifferent here. Money line is -135, 121 for the Chiefs. I don't see how this is going to move. Juiceless contest. I will take a juiced up 2. So this will probably close at Buffalo -2.5, and that's probably right. Let's be honest here. So, this is the one for the public to watch, the one for the viewers to enjoy. 5-star entertainment, Buffalo -2.
This is a bit of a curveball, fat guy, but the over-under for this game is only 53.5. And I say only, but knowing how these teams play, knowing how they've been coached in the past, and knowing the potential that both quarterbacks, they can put up that Baker Mayfield 5-touchdown performance.
They could.
It seems
they could.
I know 54 is that last key number when we're talking about over-unders, but 53.5 for this, it seems low. Is it a sucker bet, though, to take that over?
That's a good question here. It's a sucker bet betting into strong markets, right? You have a very strong point here. That is the last key one because, just how the permutations of scoring goes down, but these teams are, it's hard not to argue. It's hard to argue that they aren't incredibly risky, Buffalo, I think has the most, when you look at fourth down decision making, they're the most positive expected value, or they're making the best fourth down decisions. But I honestly think it's by accident. They just chuck it all the time. Even when they're up on Buffalo, they're bombing it to Gabe Davis and they're up 28 points. It was a really, really strange to me to see, but whatever works. I guess when it doesn't fail very often, then why not do it? So you could make a very strong case for that. And also, too, you could argue that Kansas City is susceptible to big plays, but who knows how that all shake out. I hate doing that stuff, but I do think 53.5 is interesting. Let's just see where it closes and see where the market thinks and whether Big Rise's assertion that 53.5 is a good total for the under.
On to the next game, which I believe is going to be the Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles -5.5, 23% of early bettors are on the Eagles. Fat Guy, this is a 5-star entertainment divisional battle for Sunday Night Football.
I actually think it is. This is Dallas got a rowdy D right now. Like, let's be real here. And I think they're going to try Dak again, which that'll be another talking point that's just, I think, a little ridiculous. So, should they play Cooper Rush? Or if Dak's not 100%, blah, blah, blah. If Dak plays, he's probably the best guy to go with in that situation. You're going to have to trust the people that are actually there. And he is a player of a very high caliber player. He is better than Cooper Rush. Don't let any pundit put in your head that that's not true. That being said, I think you might get some value here. This is taking the Cowboys. The only issue I have is like 5.5. Since I think 6 is an undervalued key number, I'd rather just take them on the money line at +185. Take my chances there. Although some places it is 5 too, but 5 is just such a non-number. Instead of reverse teasing it, I'd rather just take when you tease a number down or up, you end up paying more over round when you do the calculations for implied odds. It'll add up to like 106.5%. So that 6.5% is the vigorous, what the bookie takes. Whereas on baseball, it's 1.9%. Football, it's 4% roughly. But on most of the teased up and teased down lines, you pay an extra 2%, which is really bad. So I'd rather just pay less juice overall and just take the money line if that's the case. Just because I think 5.5 is a no man's land number. So I kind of like the Cowboys to win this game. If I'm getting, from the price of +185, I don't mind. But in a juiceless contest, we will be taking the Dallas Cowboys.
And on to Monday Night Football, where the Denver Broncos travel to LA to take on the Chargers, who are also 5.5-point favorites at home. 58% of early bettors are on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Fat Guy, who you got?
We're going to be taking the Nathaniel Hackett Denver Broncos. I've never been less excited for a coach. I like week to week. It's tough. It's tough. I would be I'd want to fire myself if I hired him, just for being stupid enough to hire a guy that doesn't understand how a clock works. Like getting a first down might be better than a touchdown. I would fire myself. That would be me. But 5.5 points. We'll take the Broncos. It's a non-juice line. The only thing, though, is just as an aside, I have to think it's kind of funny. Like, the NFL is usually excellent at scheduling. I feel like the Broncos are getting a lot of play here, and this is a little bit of egg on their face for the first time, and I can't remember. So I know people complain, but this has been really miserable, the Broncos. Like, it just... If they were coached better and they just didn't get the results, I can stomach that. But when you're coached like complete garbage and everything is out of tune, like they don't look like a team that can compete. I would have serious questions going even into like the middle of the season with that guy as my head coach. And anyways, we're just gonna be taking the Broncos +5.5. I could go very long about how disgusted I am with that coaching job.
Fat Guy, on to the lightning round. Washington at Chicago.
Chicago Bears.
Jacksonville at Indy.
Animal theme. Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jets Packers.
Jets.
Ravens Giants.
Ravens.
Bengals Saints.
Bengals.
Bucks Steelers.
Buccaneers.
49ers Falcons.
Niners.
Patriots Browns.
Patriots.
Vikings Dolphins.
ASMR Minnesota Vikings.
Carolina at LA Rams.
LA Rams.
Arizona Seattle.
Arizona Cardinals.
Buffalo Kansas City.
Buffalo Bills.
Dallas at Philly.
Dallas Cowboys.
Denver at LAC.
Denver Broncos.
All right, Fat Guy. Congratulations to Untouchable Jay for going 11-5 in the contest, the lone winner this week. So congrats to Untouchable Jay. And the leaderboard, Fat Guy, you and I went 10-6. Another decent week here, putting us still close to the top of the overall leaderboard, which we can jump to now. But CEO Eric Hayden and AKA Jive Turkey sitting up top 47, 31, and 2, just over 60% for the season.
Is he the CEO of Ditches Landscaping, just out of curiosity?
I believe so. Fat Guy, onto the J715 name of the week. Honorable mentions, take it away.
They missed each other so much last vid, they sat on the same chair. I'm too lazy to make my own picks. Clearly, that's why you watch us. Insert honorable mention here. A lot of Philly folks pronounced their FB team Eagles. I didn't know that. The prodigal stunner, family on vacation to Hawaii. I guess that's what he wants. Fat Guy's week 4 diet, blowing chunks. There's a continental divide between BR and FG now. I would say that there is.
This is the JS715 name of the week. Whoa, kaboom!
JS716 deserves some love.
Got a good chuckle out of that one. Make your picks against the spread for week 6 at BigRyanTheFatGuy.com. There's also a link down in the description. And thank you to our channel members, Blurry Blends, Colton Armitage, Dan Dickerson, J Mac, Jamie Gonzalez, Josh Allen, Mickey Hill, Pimus, Ronald Fowler, The Figure Skater 13, Untouchable J, and Zella Lem Araga. And I'm hopeless. But thank you guys so much for being channel members. We appreciate it. $5 a month. You can join it. There's a link in the description below. Fat Guy, that's it. Week 6 in the books. How are you feeling? There's nothing that's like home run this week? Is there anything you love?
Potentially Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's about it. Just because I don't think you can like get hosed on the deal, more or less. And like I would say Rams, but I think that meat's been stripped a little bit. Like 8.5 went away real quick. So we're gonna go with Minnesota potentially.
And keep your eye on that Buffalo, Kansas City over, guys. NFL picks against the spread for week 6 in the books. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your picks for week 6.